Have you ever had a moment where you just snapped? What am I doing? Who is that talking right now? Because it certainly doesn't feel like me, but under the mask there is a basement. Think of it as a hidden room in the foundation of your psyche. Instead, you start being a whole person. A good person is often just someone wearing a mask, afraid of their own death. Thanks for tuning in. Have you ever had a moment where you just snapped? Maybe it was in the middle of a peaceful dinner and you suddenly just said something unusually cruel to someone you love. Or maybe it was a quiet afternoon, but you felt a flash of intense, burning jealousy over a friend's success. Why is he so successful and I am not? In that split second, a question usually flashes across your mind. What am I doing? Who is that talking right now? Because it certainly doesn't feel like me. Most of us spend our entire lives building what we call a persona. Think of it as a polished professional mask. From the time you were a small child, the world began handing you the blueprints for that mask. Your parents suggested who you should become. Your teachers told you how to be good. Society told you how to be successful and respected. We spent decades perfecting this version of ourselves, the one that is kind, hardworking, and always has it together. But under the mask, there is a basement. Think of it as a hidden room in the foundation of your psyche. Since you were 5 years old, you have been throwing everything you think is bad into that basement. Every ugly thought, every selfish impulse, every shameful desire. Today we're going into that basement. We're talking about shadow work. Not because we want to find a monster to slay, but because that monster is actually holding the key to your most authentic life. Please let me define what I mean with the shadow. What exactly is that, the shadow? The concept comes from the psychologist Carl Jung. He taught that the shadow isn't evil. It's simply the parts of your personality that you have rejected or deemed unacceptable. Imagine you were a naturally loud, expressive, and vibrant child. But maybe you grew up in a house where you were told to be quiet, don't be silly, or stop showing off. To survive in that environment, to be loved and kept safe, you had to cut those parts of yourself off. You pushed your loudness and your vibrancy into the shadow. Now, fast forward 20 years, you are an adult, and you find yourself absolutely hating people who are loud or expressive. They get under your skin. They make you roll your eyes. Why? It's because they are expressing the very thing you aren't allowed to do. Your annoyance isn't about them, it's just information that you've stored in your basement. Your shadow is like a heavy backpack you have been dragging around behind for years. You're exhausted, but you don't even realize you're wearing it. And the tragedy is that this backpack is actually full of rejected gold. You are sitting on the top of a treasure without knowing it. Inside of your virtual backpack, you find your lost creativity, your healthy anger, which expresses itself often just through the lack of the ability to set boundaries, and your deepest, most honest desires. When we hide in the dark, we accidentally hide the light too. To understand this more deeply, we can look to ancient non-dual wisdom. In this perspective, we aren't just the mask, and we aren't even the basement. Think of yourself as the entire ocean. The persona, your social mask, is just a little wave on the surface. It's visible, it's active, but actually it is very temporary. The shadow might be like a dark current deep below the surface. Most of us live our lives thinking we are the wave. When the wave crashes, we feel broken. When the current gets dark, we feel scared. But there is another part of you. It is the silent witness. The witness is like the water itself. It is the pure awareness that observes both the surface wave and the deep current. The water doesn't judge the wave for crashing. The water doesn't think the dark current is evil. It just is. When you sit in the seat of the witness, you realize that you are the space in which all these things happen. You are the screen, not the movie. The movie can show a tragedy or a comedy. It can show a hero or a villain. But when the movie is over, the screen is still white, untouched, and perfect. When you realize you are that pure awareness, the shadow stops being a scary monster. It becomes just another part of the scenery that you can finally look at without flinching. So, how do you actually find this shadow? How can you draw it into your awareness? You have to look for the trigger. The world is a giant hall of mirrors. Everything that we haven't reconciled within ourselves, we project onto other people. In psychology, they call this projection. Like a movie projector, you take a limited hidden image of yourself and throw it onto the screen of someone else's behavior. Let me give you a personal example. I once had a colleague who was incredibly lazy, or at least that's what I told myself about this person. It drove me insane. I'd go home every night fuming about how unprofessional they were. I was the team leader, so I felt justified in my constant criticism. But years later, I finally sat down to do the work. I stepped back into the role of the witness and looked at my anger objectively. I realized I wasn't actually mad at their laziness. I was mad at myself because I never ever allowed myself to rest. I was a slave to my own hard-working mask. My shadow was screaming, I want to do nothing for 5 minutes too. Because I wasn't allowed to rest, I couldn't stand seeing someone else do it. My judgment was a mirror. Who would be that person for you? No, not a person who is actually dangerous, but the one who is just, the one who just rubs you the wrong way. The irritation is a map. It shows you exactly where you have locked a part of yourself into your basement. Okay, let me show you a technique to get things moving in your life. If you're ready to start this process, you need two things: a journal and a quiet room. You cannot rush the shadow. The shadow doesn't talk to people who are in a hurry or to fix it or to get rid of it. It only talks to people who are willing to listen. Here are 3 prompts to get the conversation started. Prompt 1. The villain. If you had to write a fictional villain based on your own worst traits, what would they be like? Don't hold back. Give them a name. Now look closer. What is their superpower? Why do you secretly envy them? Their freedom to be that way. Prompt 2. The childhood no. What was the one thing you most frequently were punished for or shamed as a child? Maybe it was being too loud, too sensitive, or too angry. Now look at your life today. How do you treat yourself when you start to feel those same things? Do you punish yourself just like your parents or teachers did? Prompt 3. The projection check. List 3 people you genuinely dislike. Write down the specific trait they share. Now ask yourself, how does that trait exist in me? Even maybe in a small, hidden, or opposite way. Take your time with these prompts. The goal isn't to reach a conclusion. It's to start a relationship. This leads us to the most important part: integration. Most people think shadow work is about conquering your dark side. But you can't kill a shadow. If you turn on a brighter light, the shadow just gets sharper and more defined. Integration is about inviting the shadow to sit down and have some tea. If you find a mean or aggressive part of yourself, don't try to suppress it. Instead, sit with it and ask, what are you trying to protect me from? Usually you find that the mean voice is just a protective shell for a very wounded, very small version of you that felt unsafe a long time ago. When you integrate the shadow, you stop trying to be a good person. Instead, you start being a whole person. A good person is often just someone wearing a mask, afraid of their own death. A whole person can be kind, but they can also be fierce when they need to be. They can be selfless, but they also know how to say no without guilt. Shadow work is the hardest work you will ever do. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, it might make you cry because you are finally meeting the parts of yourself you abandoned years ago. But on the other side of that discomfort is a version of you that doesn't have to pretend anymore. You begin to see that the light and the dark are one. They are both parts of the same beautiful, complex reality observed by that silent witness within you. You'll find that the monsters in your basement were never monsters at all. They were just parts of your soul waiting for you to finally come home and turn on the light. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.